Hey guys, welcome back. Eric Smith here, 5 Reasons Sports contributor, also co-host of Scouting the Fins. And in today's video, we are going to discuss Miami Dolphins' 5th round pick, number 143 overall, Jordan Phillips. I previously did in-depth reviews of both Kenneth Grant and Jonah Savai Inaya. I think I'm getting that right now. On those ones, I watched almost every game for each prospect, and I dove into key aspects of each player's game. But as we get into film reviews for the day 3 draft picks for the Dolphins, I'm still going to try to give more examples than you'll find in most other videos, but I'm not going to watch every play of every game for these players. I think it's important to understand that these players made it to day 3 for a reason. If it was all sunshine and roses, they would have been drafted on day 1 or 2. This is also a good time just to review my process when looking at draft prospects. This season, my horizontal board had 172 players, and obviously, the time I spend on each of them has its limits. I really try to watch film with my own eyes before going down the rabbit hole of reading other evaluations, so I'll usually try to find a game that is a quality opponent or includes an imposing opposing player that I also want to look at. So for Jordan Phillips, the main game that I looked at was Rutgers, and that was probably so I could get a look at Keontae Hamilton also. And as I look back over the notes, here's some of the things I had written down for Jordan Phillips. I don't see the hype with Jordan Phillips. He seems to often absorb contact in the run game and lose ground. Has the physical tools and maybe in a reduced role would be more impactful. And I ended up giving him a late 3rd round grade. So after that, I'll check out some draft guides, including the ones by Jake Brental, Dane Brugler, and Simon Clancy to see if I'm way off on my analysis. And in those, I pick up some key information, such as the fact that he's only 20 years old, and as Simon would say, he's still a baby. He hasn't logged a sack in his college career, and that's a total of 534 pass rushing snaps. He's got a background as a wrestler and power lifter. Simon called him the most intriguing player in the draft. And Dane said that he is known for his legendary work ethic in the program and set a high bar. So, with all that in mind, I then pick a few games to add to my scouting. For Phillips, those games were Northwestern, because I also wanted to see a little of UDFA AJ Henning, Iowa, because off the top of my head, they have NFL talent in guard Connor Colby and center Logan Jones, and also Oregon. And again, I know they have a strong program and NFL talent on the offensive line. So those type of games are going to hold more weight for me than watching them play against, let's say, Connecticut or Villanova, who are not on the same level when it comes to offensive line talent. And I think that variety of games really does a good job of showing why that's a solid process. If you just go off the first half of the Northwestern game, you'd probably have a 1st round grade on Phillips. Absolute game wrecker. And he was a bit more quiet in the second half of that one. Against Oregon, he was solid, but he wasn't making near the same splash plays that he was in that Northwestern game. And then against Iowa, he had plenty of, just okay reps, but no real great reps and way too many pretty bad reps. So I think that inconsistency, especially against better talent, shows why Phillips is a day 3 pick by NFL evaluators, but also why a lot of fans are very high on him. All right, we're going to start off our film review looking at run plays because as a defensive tackle, especially somebody who's not expected to start, I think the best way for a defensive tackle to find his way onto the field is to show value in the running game. So right here is Jordan Phillips against Northwestern. You can see there, right? Really nice job of, you know, initiating the contact there off the snap, extending his arms, and being able to create some displacement. He's got that lineman uh, 3 yards, 4 yards in the backfield running into the running back, right? So very good rep there by Phillips. Next one here, again, 0-1 technique. Similar idea, right? Still against Northwestern. So off the snap of the ball, right? Nice and low, good lean, extends. He's able to toss that offensive lineman aside. Not able to make the tackle there, but can't be a one-man show. Still a very good play by Phillips. This is going to be the same play from the end zone angle. Again, you can see this is almost directly head up, so zero technique there. Does a good job of winning the play side leverage, right? But not selling out to that side. Tosses the center and essentially makes the play. Next one over the nose again. And basically, same idea there. Doesn't make the tackle, right? But wins off the snap, wins that play side leverage, right? And is able to continue working upfield. And this is, definitely not what you want on an outside zone play. All right. That running back wants to hit this downhill. And you can see that the penetration by Phillips is forcing him to widen that out, and that's allowing his teammates to rally and get there. So another really good play in the run game by Phillips there. Now we got Phillips on the backside, so this is more of a two technique, so head up over the guard, right? And another good job off the snap, right? Initiating that contact, extending, right? Getting that separation there, and then able to slide off the block and make the tackle. Now it is a 4-yard gain, right? Not a great play overall by the defense. But when you talk about the backside defensive tackle being able to work over to the play side and make a play on an outside zone that was not a cutback, that's a high level play by a defensive tackle. Against Iowa, so missed the tackle there, but again, right, does a good job. Little high, but as the center loses his balance, Phillips is able to maintain his balance, right? Stay under control, and then try to make the tackle there. Doesn't get it, but at some point your teammates got to step up also. And if your 0-1 technique nose is able to get his 300 plus pound body in the hole, then a linebacker or a safety from the backside, somebody else should be filling up there to help out. Next one, another zero technique against the Hawkeyes. And the same thing we've seen over and over here on the good reps with Phillips, right? Solid leverage. That extension right there is something he does really well. Able to toss him to the side and just eat up the running back. Now, as you can see, there was definitely some high-level stuff on the good side of the run plays. Unfortunately, we're going to have even a few more reps on the negative side of it. So back to Northwestern. This is Phillips down here playing in a zero technique. An inside zone there. And not the worst rep. We're going to see worse reps than this on the film. But, losing ground off the snap, able to get the extension, and never really finds the ball. So not a great rep by Phillips on that one. And then we hop back into the Iowa film. And on this one, so this is more of a pin and pull is what this is, right? You see him get pinned to the inside by a tight end, which should not happen for a 300-pound defensive tackle. And then in addition to getting pinned inside, right, now somebody else engages, and now we're on skates going backwards and finish the play 5 yards plus downfield. Just not what you can have from a 5 technique defensive lineman. In here again, playing in almost like a wide 5 technique there. And on this one, more of a solo block. And you can see there that he, again, just can't find the ball, ends up losing his feet. When we're talking about running these outside zone run plays from an offensive perspective, one-on-one block here, want to create this horizontal displacement. And that's exactly what you get from Iowa on a 2nd and 1 there. Get a combo block there. Obviously, the running back fumble, you see the ball pop out at the end, right? But as a 5 technique defensive tackle, you have to be able to hold your ground here so that your linebackers can flow into there. You got to take up 2 blockers. And you can see that, Phillips just ends up getting blown off the ball. Um, got to be better than that. Iowa has a good offensive line, but you're going to be playing against NFL talent every week in 2025. Need to be better against double teams. Again, same play here. 5 technique, outside shoulder of the tackle. And you can just see it. I mean, the combo never even really gets there. 70 never really helps out with that play. And you got Phillips getting driven both wide and then losing ground vertically right where the ball's going. Back down here under the nose against Logan Jones. Right? Same idea. Solo block, getting driven back several yards in addition to getting horizontally displaced. Not good enough when we're talking about, somebody that we expect to play a decent amount of snaps this year. Another similar play, right? Logan Jones, okay initially, right? But Jones is the one that's able to work harder here and create movement. Down over the nose again, another combo block, right? You see him in on the play, right? But you never want to see a nose tackle 6 yards downfield basically getting run into to prevent a touchdown, right? Can't have that. Can't have a nose tackle getting driven off the ball, down deep in the red zone. Got to be able to hold ground and not give up space there. Couple against Oregon here, but we're seeing same type of thing, right? Center gets out there, moving him horizontally as well as vertically. Not good enough against the zone run stuff. And then we get him out here as more of a 3 technique. And on this one, right, getting a double team, does an okay job, right? Initially trying to get low, right? But his shoulders never get down. You can see him trying to drop his weight, trying to hold his ground. But we're talking a 3rd-and-1 situation. You have to win that right away. And you can see that right off the snap, he is already at the first down marker. And then by the time he finishes it, right, he's another 2-3 yards back. Just not good enough taking on double teams there. So as you can see, right, there are certainly some high level reps, but there are also some reps that you show that he's not at a place right now that you can just leave him out there consistently and expect high level snaps, snap in and snap out. And I think that he would benefit from, really having to earn those reps and, show that he's able to cut down on some of these bad snaps. All right, and then on to the pass rushing. And there's definitely some good stuff. He's got some juice in the pass game, not always consistent, right? But you can see, again, we're back to Northwestern film, off the snap, just taking that center and able to extend and dent the pocket, 7 yards deep, putting him into the lap of the quarterback, results in a inaccurate throw. So definitely some nice explosion shown here by Phillips. Another one over the nose. And on this one, he's a little slower getting off the snap, but you can see that, despite slow off the snap, able to use that quickness to, completely avoid the center. The running back gets a little bit on him, but ends up changing the launch point of the quarterback. So definitely another good pass rush rep there. Over the center again. Very similar to that first rep. I mean, he puts him on his ass on that one. Can't hate that at all. I mean, would love to see him be able to finish. But you can see, even though he didn't have a sack in his college career, if you just box score watch and see that, you're not getting a full picture of what Phillips can bring to the field when he gets the stuff right. Out here, very similar rep, right? More of a two or two eye technique there instead of the center. Right now, he's picking on another player, that left guard on skates all the way back to the quarterback. This is going to be that same play, different view over here, and just walking him back from the snap of the ball. And then last one against Oregon. And another one that's not getting the sack, but I mean, you can't get much closer than that. I mean, he's splitting a double team there and right gets the hands of the center off of him quickly. The guard's trying to help, but just a monster at times and does everything. I mean, Gabriel almost walks into the sack, but he's not able to finish it. So as you can see, right there's good and there is bad, and when he gets it right, it's definitely shows why a lot of fans were high on him. All right, now we're going to look at a couple of not so good pass rush reps, and it's unfair in a sense that you can't expect interior pass rushers to impact every single throw. At times, they have to be able to play both the run and the pass, and it's they're playing against some big guys too. So just expecting them to walk them back every time is not realistic. But what I do find, and it's kind of hard to represent it when we're just looking at, a few plays cut up, but there is a massive difference in the impact that Phillips has when he is fresh early in a drive or early in a game versus what he looks like as the game wears on. You can see that in this game, right? They're down close to the red zone, so they've probably had a decent drive here. You are at 6 minutes and 33 seconds in the fourth quarter, so kind of later in the game. And you can see it off the snap, right? Phillips is a little slower than he has been. It's third down. He should be, flying upfield. And a result of that, not walking that center back the way that we saw him do in a couple of those other clips. You see him throw the spin move kind of late there. And that's an okay move for him, but it feels like it's a late counter a lot of times. Not overly effective. It's more like just don't want to stay blocked and trying to get off of a block versus a real threat to sack the quarterback. But it's something that, maybe he can develop as a more effective tool as we, watch him move forward. And then another one here, kind of the same deal there. 3rd and 8, obvious passing situation. And if we're watching Phillips here, kind of slow off the ball. If you look at where the rest of that defensive line is compared to where he is, right? And he doesn't get the chance to get the hands on the offensive lineman early. And he just kind of throws that spin move there. And he's, we're talking about a quarterback still in the pocket, not a stunt, and he's spinning himself out into the defensive end. So it just doesn't feel effective, even though, it's a smooth looking move and something that I would like to see him develop and maybe end up with more NFL sacks than he does in his college career, but not something that he is really effectively using to create pressure on the quarterback at this time. All right, so as we wrap it up here, as you saw there is a lot to like about Jordan Phillips, but there's also, some reasons for some hesitation and explanations for why he lasted until round 5 of the NFL draft. Looking at the level of competition, the Northwestern film that you saw there was much better than what you saw against Iowa or against Oregon. So that's something that he's going to have to continue to develop to be able to step up against better competition. Also saw that, while there were plenty of impact reps, like eye popping reps, right? There was also some really bad reps that would, be a liability if he was on the field in certain situations. So I think that he is entering a good situation in Miami with Zach Sealer and Austin Clark being able to mentor him. Not looking at this as somebody that's going to come in and play 500 or 600 snaps this season, but I don't think that's a good ask of him, anyways. I think that having him play 200 to 300 snaps, spelling Zach Sealer, spelling Kenneth Grant, I think is going to be a good place for him to be as a rookie. And then hopefully as the season goes on, as he gets into year 2 and 3, right, he can find that balance of being able to have those impactful plays and cutting down on the negative plays, right? Find a way that that spin move becomes a real weapon in his pass rush arsenal. But overall, a pick that I like, especially for a day 3 pick, just caution you of, you know, oversetting your expectations if he ends up getting forced into too much playtime early. As always, appreciate you guys watching. Feel free to leave a comment below and let me know